So, I replayed Fallout 4 for the first time since it launched almost 11 years ago. And honestly, I think I judged the game way too harshly back then. And don't get me wrong, I still don't think Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 3 or New Vegas. I'm not about to sit here and pretend it suddenly turned into the greatest Fallout ever made. But after playing it again on PC with mods and all the new DLC, I can finally admit this game is a lot better than I remembered. Now look, when Fallout 4 got announced, I was hyped. Honestly, I might have been more excited for it than I was for Skyrim. Yeah. After Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I couldn't wait to get back into the wasteland. I wanted a new setting, better graphics, stronger gunplay, weird quests, dark humor, and that classic Fallout feeling where you step out into a ruined version of America and just disappear into it for hours. So when Fallout 4 finally dropped, I went in expecting to love it. Instead, I started noticing little things that immediately pushed me away from it. The first thing that really threw me off was the voiced protagonist. That might not sound like a huge deal to everybody, but for me, it changed the whole feel of the role-playing aspect. In Fallout 3 and New Vegas, your character didn't have a voice. You read the dialogue, you chose what you wanted to say, and in your head, that character sounded however you wanted them to sound. Your character could be a smooth talker, a complete idiot, a dangerous lunatic, or just some random wasteland survivor trying to get by. Fallout 4 made my character feel less like someone I created and more like someone Bethesda already had in mind. And once that happened, it got harder for me to sink into the game the same way I did with the older ones. And then there was the whole thing with the weapon visibility, which bothered me way more than it probably should have. I know a lot of people don't care about little small things like that, but for me, it was another hit to the immersion. I'm not in third person all the time, but every now and then I want to zoom out and see my character, see what they actually look like, see how they belong in the world. I want to see the armor, the gear, see my whole build that I got going on. But in Fallout 4, somebody can pull out a mini nuke, a flamer, or a missile launcher, and it looks like it came straight out of their ass. It's funny, but it also makes the whole thing feel a lot less grounded. So after a while, I had to admit, Fallout 4 just wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. It didn't feel awful. It just felt bland compared to the other game in the series. And that hit hard because I genuinely love Fallout. It's one of those series that can completely pull me into its world. So for me to play a new Fallout game, lose interest and not even finish it was actually a wild thought, but it happened. I put it down, moved on, and for years I just thought Fallout 4 as one of the most disappointing games that had been, released by Bethesda. But after all these years, for some reason, I decided to give it another shot. This time on my PC though, instead of my PS4. And that changed a lot. The game still has some of the same issues. The voice protagonist still isn't my favorite. The dialogue still feels weaker than Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and the role-playing is still a little bit more limited than I wanted it to be. But replaying it on PC made me realize there was a lot more here than I gave it credit for. And a big part of that was how much easier it became to shape the experience into something I actually wanted to play. The biggest reason, of course, being, obviously, the mods. Mods helped out tremendously, not because they magically erased the game's original flaws, but because they let me smooth out a bunch of things that kept pulling me out of the experience. Stuff like the hosted weapons and better weather, improved lighting, stronger animations, better sound, cleaner UI, and expanded settlement tools all helped the game feel more immersive and more complete. Bethesda still made the choices I didn't like, but mods made Fallout 4 feel closer to the version of itself I wanted back in 2015. The DLC also helped more than I expected. Going back with all the expansions made the game feel deeper and more fleshed out than the version I originally played. Automatron fits Fallout perfectly because you're building your own robot companion, and that just feels like the exact kind of weird, wonky wasteland thing that we'd expect out of a series like this. Far Harbor is still a huge standout to me as well. It has that darker atmosphere, thicker tension, and a strong sense of mystery that I wanted from the base game. The fog, the creatures, the island, and the factions fighting over its future all feel way more in line with this kind of Fallout experience. More of what I was looking for than what we got in the original game. The choices also feel more interesting too, which goes a long way in a game where, that was one of my biggest issues. And then there's Nuka World, which is basically Fallout asking, like, what if Disneyland got taken over by a bunch of raiders? And that idea alone gives it a ton of personality. It also lets you lean more into being the bad guy, which is different. You don't really want to do that in the base game. So doing that here is interesting. But the thing that surprised me most, though, was the settlement system. When Fallout 4 first came out, I did not care too much about the settlements at all. I wanted to explore, do quests, and keep it moving. I was not trying to become the mayor of a post-apocalyptic Home Depot. But now I get it. With the DLC and mods, the settlement system becomes more of the game's biggest strength. You can build actual towns, set up defenses, customize homes, connect supply lines, and slowly turn parts of the wasteland into places that feel lived in. And once you start, it's dangerously easy to lose track of time. 1 minute you're fixing a wall in Sanctuary, and then the next you've been working for 2 hours. So after coming back to Fallout 4 all these years later, I still don't think it's better than Fallout 3 or New Vegas. Those games still do role playing and dialogue better. They still give me more of that classic Fallout feeling that I've been looking for. But Fallout 4 is not nearly as bad as I remembered. Back on PS4 at launch, it felt like a letdown. Coming back on PC though, with better performance, all the DLC, years of community support, and mods that smooth out some of the rough edges that I saw in the early game, it feels a lot more complete. I can finally see what people loved about it. The combat feels better. The world is fun to explore. The DLC adds real value, and the settlement system has way more depth than I gave it credit for. It still has flaws, plenty of them. Some of them are big, some of them small, but I don't look at it as disappointing anymore. Fallout 4 isn't my favorite Fallout game. I will say that again, it's not. But after all this time, I can finally appreciate it for what it actually is instead of being mad that it wasn't what I wanted it to be.